Yo, it's Derek. As someone who's never touched the Persona game, I'm honestly not too hyped about Persona 3 Reload. Well, I wasn't, I should say. See, I had this genius idea to play Persona 3 Portable Steam port to get a video out in time for the remake's release so I could really play the YouTube algorithm. On top of growing my channel, I also have just had interest in the Persona games for a while. I've just never played them. This well-timed release for a remake of Persona 3 finally gave me the push I needed to start. I don't regret it either. For those unaware, Persona 3 is a turn-based JRPG which has you as a member of a group known as SEES, or the Specialized Extracurricular Execution Squad. As you may guess from the word extracurricular, you're also a high school student and you must pander to everyone you meet in order to maximize the gain in your social life. The better your social connections, the more powerful your use of personas become. Personas are manifestations of one's psyche and only a few characters can use one. Some of those few also happen to be your party members. Pretty convenient. Another core aspect of Persona 3 is the Dark Hour. When it becomes midnight, for an entire hour the whole world gets a disturbing green color to it and everyone who isn't immune to the Dark Hour's effects becomes coffins until the hour's up. No normal person remembers what happened and only some are unaffected. A few of those just so happen to kinda die, but even fewer are previously mentioned Persona users. During the Dark Hour, the school that many of the main cast go to, Gekkoukan High, becomes a massive tower called Tartarus. Persona 3 has an interesting way of dealing with its dungeons, and that's because it's technically just one really big dungeon you go back to over and over again. As the game progresses, more floors of Tartarus open up to you. I'll leave the talk about the gameplay for the rest of the video. Gotta fill in the gaps when a lot of the gameplay is talking to people in a particular manner so they like you more and you can get better stuff. As a warning, I am using some mods for most of this playthrough. Nothing that changes the core gameplay in a major way, just some quality of life improvements that are much needed for this disaster of a port. And if anyone's wondering what my thoughts on the P3P Steam port is, it sucks. It definitely looks and sounds like it's from the PSP, so if you want something more than that, you're not gonna get it. Alright, that's enough complaining for now. Time to talk about the main thing I do here. Getting the achievements, and talking about the game itself since I want to experiment with making these videos part review, part achievement hunting based. I'm still new to this, bear with me in my experiments with how I script these videos. Before starting the game, I've got to choose a couple things. For one, I've got to do the Pokemon tradition of choosing if I want to play as a blue or pink person. I'm a big fan of blue, so we're going with Makoto Yuki. After picking the dude class, I have to decide what difficulty to play on. Luckily for me, there's no achievement in the game related to difficulty, so theoretically I could play on the easiest difficulty for this playthrough, but I don't need help sleeping, so I'll just go on normal. I don't have the time or patience to play on hard or ultra nightmare, man. After those important choices, I am greeted by a good few text boxes and the first showing of the Dark Hour. Makoto makes his way to the dorm while everything is green and the moon is, like, really big. When he arrives, he's greeted by a weird kid with piercing blue eyes and a contract that coincidentally sets the plot in motion and lets me name the main character. I'm a bit lame, so I'm just gonna call the protagonist Makoto Yuki, his canonical name, after signing, because why wouldn't I? The boy vanishes like any ordinary child can, and I'm greeted by an anxious girl with a gun at the ready and another girl with longer red hair. Yukari Takuba and Mitsuru Kirijo. These characters I'm going to be seeing a lot, whether I like it or not. Being the first two members of SEES that are met, it makes sense. I'm sure this is a totally normal place with totally normal people living in it that just so happen to have guns in a country where not everyone and their dog can own one for fun, so it's time for sleep. Waking up with less than 8 hours of sleep under my belt like usual, Yukari joins me to go to school the next day and even gives me a little tour. To start, I've got to head up to the faculty office and listen to people talk about who cares what. But soon I meet my man Junpei Iori. For now he's just kind of a doofus, but we'll be seeing more of him later. More unimportant conversations later, we head back to the dorm, meet another member of SEES, Akihiko Sanada. The next day, April 8th, introduces the first glance at an overarching thing that I'll be working on over the course of this playthrough, social stats, which are divided between academics, courage, and charm. Social stats are mainly used to start social links, but I'll talk about social links when I get one. I meet another SEES member, Shuji Akutsuki, and that night I'm introduced to the Velvet Room and its residents, Igor and Elizabeth. In the middle of the night, Yukari wakes me up and drags me to the roof where I meet my first shadow of many. Yukari fails to do something a bit drastic, but somehow Makoto knows what to do. If only the cutscene was here to give a bit more of a hint as to why Makoto just kinda knows what to do with a gun, aside from seeing Yukari almost do something not family friendly to herself. Realizing what he has to do, Makoto uses Yukari's evoker on himself and awakens his persona. Orpheus, as well as a strange, seemingly transformed state of it. This sequence is pretty cool, and with this awakening comes my first achievement, the other self. Unfortunately, Makoto passes out and doesn't wake up for 10 days. During Makoto's mild coma, I'm brought into the Velvet Room once again, where Igor tells me about Persona and how my social connections can strengthen my use of them. In gameplay, this translates to giving more EXP to a persona when you fuse it based on what rank your social link is of the persona's associated arcana. Instead of being split up by race like in the main Shin Megami Tensei games, these monstrous companions are categorized by arcana. Back to the normal stuff. Go to school, come back to the dorm, but this time the pals actually explain some stuff to me. They explain what the Dark Hour is and some stuff about Persona. You know, story stuff. More importantly for this video, however, I get my first social link, the Full Arcana. Social links are basically just the level of how good your relationship is with a particular person or group, and each person or group with a social link attributed to them are represented by one arcana. For C's, it's the Fool. As I interact with C's, the rank of the social link will gradually increase up until the maximum of rank 10. I'll mention when I start and max each social link as to not inflate the script with each rank increase. But for now, I go back to sleep and the next day Junpei joins C's and I'm introduced to the game's dungeon, Tartarus. Before going up, I'm met with a blue door that conveniently uses the velvet key that Igor gave me before. I head in, say hello, he tells me I can have multiple personas, formerly known as schizophrenia, and I leave. I also found out that the other members of C's don't have any clue what the Velvet Room is and apparently can't see the door or even me entering it. So I've got something to be confused about already. Interesting plot building aside, it's time to climb Tartarus a bit. I already explained what it is before, so I won't re-explain deeply. I just went in, walked around the second floor for a bit, and peaced out since I couldn't do much more today. Now is a good time to explain the roles that Yukari and Junpei fill, the only other party members I can use as of now. Junpei's persona, Hermes, specializes in fire and physical damage, having strike and slash attacks as his melee skills, and he generally uses two-handed swords for basic attacks. Yukari wields a persona named Io, and she uses exclusively wind elemental attacks as well as a variety of healing skills and general support. Yukari will prove to be one of the most useful party members as time goes, because the game turns into a bunch of battles that revolve around supporting the main character a ton, which Yukari will get better and better at as time goes. She also uses a bow to inflict pierce damage with her basic attack. I'll be coming back to Tartarus for a longer visit in a couple days, so I'll really get comfortable with my two friends here soon. The next day after school, I'm introduced to the main shop of the game for equipment, the police station at Paulownia Mall. Officer Kurosawa here would definitely have some explaining to do if he was caught selling weapons to high schoolers, so I'm not going to buy anything from him for now. He'll definitely be helpful for selling items and giving me some rewards later on though. On to April 23rd, and it's almost time for the first of many Tartarus runs. Before that, I need to start the Magician Arcana social link with Kenji Tomochika, a classmate who has interesting goals that involve being romantically interested with a teacher at Gekkoukan High. With how the guide I'm using for this playthrough works, I'll typically be doing one big Tartarus run to wrap up everything I can do and prepare for the coming days. Right now I only have access to the first block of Tartarus, Febble. It's 16 floors tall and I'm climbing all 16 during this trip. I've also got to hit level 11 with the main character, get a couple items, get around 50k yen, and fuse a few persona. For items this visit, I need Old Document 1, which is found on floor 16, a muscle drink, and a katana called Juzumaru. I'll need these for requests, which is a sort of side quest mechanic that will be introduced later. As for personas, I need Arumitama, Omoikane, Valkyrie, and Yomotsu Shikome. All of these are important due to their arcana. Respectively, these four personas fall under the Chariot, Hierophant, Strength, and Hermit Arcana. These just so happen to be the earliest of each that I can obtain, and I'll need them to get as many points towards social link ranks as I can. Most optional social links have an invisible point bar that the game keeps track of. If you spend time with someone with a social link and you have the necessary points, you will enter a special interaction that will result in not only a rank increase of the link, but also a chance to get more points towards the next rank through dialogue options. If I have a persona in my inventory that matches up to the social link's arcana, I will get a 51% increase to those points. I also managed to snag a couple achievements during this first Tartarus visit. First off, I get Advantage Mind for entering a battle with advantage, which means attacking an enemy from behind to engage it. I also found a piece of armor called a Shirt of Chivalry, which changes the outfit of the character it's equipped to and is considered a costume. Fighting an enemy with a costume equipped grant me the Fashion Plate achievement. Easy stuff so far, and the same goes for the achievement called Tactical Fighter, which just requires me to exploit enemy weaknesses 100 times. This sounds like a lot, but with how the battle system works, you usually need to land advantageous hits unless you're over-leveled or just have super strong skills that aren't resisted by the enemy. I'm currently at a stage where I hit about as hard as a light breeze, so eventually I ended up exploiting weaknesses 100 times without going out of my way to do so. The last achievement of this run, and one of the more odd ones, is displaying adaptability. All you have to do is change your persona 5 times in one battle. And that's it. No, switching persona has no cost or anything. The only catch is I can only switch persona once per turn. But that's not an issue. I just switch persona, then guarded with every party member until I swap 5 times. This brings me to an interesting topic though. Persona 3 Portable has a tactics mechanic, so you can set your party members to act in a particular way automatically. For some reason, the default tactic is set to act freely for every party member. You have to go out of your way to set each new party member to direct commands, which is just how normal turn-based RPG party typically works. When it's another character's turn, you select what they do. I don't understand why this isn't the default selection, but I'm very glad I found this early on. I'd rather not be fighting the final boss and realize that I can control the characters in the video game. Finishing my first Tartarus run, Makoto doesn't feel very well with the exhaustion that Tartarus causes, so I drink a concoction made by the school nurse, Mr. Edogawa. I'll be save scumming to stay sick for the next few days and drinking a lot of these over time. It's a good way of increasing my courage stat. After school, I sell every unneeded item I acquired from Tartarus at the police station, and I ended up having a bit more money than I need. But extra money to burn is never a bad thing. I also am able to start the Chariot Arcana social link with Kazushi Miyamoto, after joining one of the 3 sport clubs, track, kendo, or the swim team. I choose kendo because it's awesome, and I started the social link with the poor guy with a knee injury. On April 25th, I get to start another social link. This time is with an old couple and it's the Hierophant Arcana. I bring a persimmon leaf to Bunkichi and Mitsuko Kitamura at their bookstore and the link was started. The next day I started the Emperor Arcana social link with the Student Council. Well, more specifically, Hidetoshi Odagiri, the school's student supervisor of the disciplinary committee. The next day I talked to Chihiro Fushimi, the treasurer of the school, and Yuko Nishiwaki, the kendo team manager. I don't start social links with either yet, but this is just to get closer to being able to start them. When I head back to the dorm on the same day, Junpei tells me about a game called Innocent Sin Online. It piqued my interest, and the next day I played it for the entirety of the day and met a player that goes by Maya, who I talked to and established a social link with. Funnily enough, it's the Hermit Arcana. This takes up the entire day, then the next day at school I talked to Chihiro again. Still no social link though. Today's the day when those items from the Tartarus visit come to play. In the Velvet Room, Elizabeth will now have requests for the player to fulfill. Basically just little side quest type things. Right now, I can complete request 2, 3, and 68 with the items I got in Tartarus. I can start and finish request 56, which is to take Elizabeth on a date. She's a bit weird, but that happens when you're in an interdimensional elevator room with some dude who's built like a goblin for who knows how long. I also accept request 73, but this can't be done until May 2nd when Yukari gives me the item I need. Now here is where one of those personas I got come in handy. To maximize what I get out of my social link with Kazushi, I need a persona of the Chariot Arcana. I have an Aura Mitama which fits the bill perfectly, giving me a rank increase of the Chariot Arcana as well as bonus points towards the next rank. Afterwards, I ran into Yuko again. Unlike last time, she agrees to walk home with me and I start the Strength Arcana social link. This is probably a decent time to mention that the guide I'm using also has day-by-day instructions for who to talk to for maximizing my efficiency and getting the max rank of every social link and social stat in one playthrough. Cry all you want, but I'm not spending more time than I have to for this game that is already panning out to be pretty long and pretty tedious from time to time. That ends the 4th month of the year and the 1st month of the game. Starting off the month of May, the students in C's visit Akihiko after he finally caves and gets checked in for an injury he's been dealing with for a little while now. He's doing alright, but a mysterious fellow with a pretty cool outfit is there and leaves when we arrive after saying about 2 words to me with a glare. You can tell he's important because he has a portrait when he talks and he has a somewhat cool outfit. As usual, nothing interesting happens other than that. The next day I completed a request to give some pine resin to Elizabeth that I got from Yukari. High octane stuff this Saturday. During the dark hour, the weird kid from the first visit of the dorm shows up again and warns me of the full moon coming in a week. I tell him to leave me alone after he gets all vague and ominous on me, and fortunately he listens. In the morning I buy my first item set from Tanaka on his Sunday morning television shopping channel, Tanaka's Amazing Commodities. I need to buy 5 item sets from Tanaka to get an achievement, so I'm starting with today's set of 3 Yanbi guns and 2 muscle drinks. Just like how I enjoy spending my Sundays in real life, I decided to play a video game for the rest of the day. Unlike me, however, Makoto has someone who enjoys talking to him online. The next morning, I ignore a call from a friend and it's time to wake up to a small run to Tartarus. This time, I'm not climbing any floors, I'm just leveling up to level 12, doing some requests, and snagging a few personas for their arcana. These persona in question are Angel for Justice, Fornius for Emperor, Niji Mitama for Temperance, Inugami for Hanged Man, and Nekomata for Magician. Oh, and I need around 100,000 yen. This run isn't nearly as long as the first, so it was an easy in and out for the most part. Getting 5 more persona was somewhat tricky when you consider I can only have 8 persona at once and I also want to keep as many of the 4 from my last run as possible. Fortunately for me, I only need the fused Niji Mitama to have it for later, so I can make it, then discard or fuse with it. I'll have access to something to get that back very easily later. The game just needs to know that I had it at one point. Angel and Nekomata are also able to be found in ordinary encounters, so my strict persona inventory wasn't as much of a problem as I expected it to be. After my quick trip to the Leaning Tower of Shadows, I buy a Mad Bull drink from a vending machine in the dorm that I'll use to start a social link later. And the next day brings a new social link to start on. After talking with Chihiro a few times in previous days, I can finally spend time with her and begin the Justice Arcana social link. Another day, another social link, and that's not stopping anytime soon for me. May 9th rolls around with a full moon. With a full moon comes a strong shadow or two. Exactly what that weird kid warned me about. There are some shadows outside of Tartarus, which isn't the best of news. This group of shadows in particular seems to have an interest in trains because, well, the entire mission takes place on a train. After walking through eerily empty cars, the standard shadow shows up and just pieces out right after. Junpei is the hothead of the party, so of course he chases it blindly and ignores orders from Mitsuru. Yukari and I catch up to him and save him from a group of shadows. And afterwards comes the first major boss of the game, the Priestess. Hanging out in front of the train, the Priestess has a very interesting design, to say the least. This boss doesn't have a whole lot going for it. The most important gimmick is the timer you're put on for most of the operation and the fact that the Priestess reflects ice attacks. One short battle later, the first full moon operation is over and I get the achievement Monorail Inspection Complete. I also get a new offensive feature for battles, the double team attack. After you knock down an enemy, you may have an offer to perform a double team attack with another party member. These attacks always crit, and they target enemies who are not knocked down, so it can be very helpful if you want to guarantee an all-out attack. The next morning, Elizabeth gives me a call through dimensions somehow and tells me that more floors of Tartarus are available for me to explore, and the Persona Compendium is now available. This is how I can easily get Persona back after I get rid of them. That's not something I'm bothering with today though. I buy some skill cards off of Tanaka's Amazing Commodities and end up spending the entire day playing Innocent Sin Online. Monday comes around, like it does roughly every 7 days, and I start a couple requests which I'll get the items for in a couple days for one and about 2 weeks from now for the other. Being able to purchase previously obtained persona now is beyond helpful to me. Today I'm going to need an Emperor persona, but I already had Fornius on me, which fits perfectly. The next day, my order from Tanaka's program arrives, and before I sleep, I need to make sure I still have that Mad Bull drink from the vending machine on the 2nd floor of the dorm, so I can start that social link tomorrow. Surely it's safe for a small child to drink, seeing as it's highly caffeinated and would probably kill anyone from the Victorian period in a single sip. May 13th starts me out with knowing how fast the Earth rotates near the equator, about 1700 kilometers per hour if you're curious. After school, I head to the Iwatodai strip mall and buy some weird takoyaki from Octopia. After giving her the takoyaki and Mad Bull, I can set up a new social link with a grade schooler named Maiko at Naganaki Shrine. I'm not actually starting it yet. I need to come back another day she's there. When I return to the dorm, I need to talk to Junpei to get a portable console to give to Elizabeth for one of those requests I got a couple days ago. It's Saturday once again, and I can start the social link with Maiko. We play together a bit, and she tells me a bit about her parents fighting a lot recently. Some of these links are either fun, generally strange, or just sad. I don't even have the associated arcana yet, and this story is already one of the saddest so far. There's no real good way of saying this, but Maiko's associated arcana is, well, the Hanged Man. Yeah, a bit harsh, but surely this develops into a misunderstanding or realization that she's wrong in thinking her parents don't love her. Surely. Secondhand depression aside, there's no school the next day and Tanaka's show is on again. This time with a bunch of worthless drunk to me, but hey, I'm 3 out of 5 purchases away from the achievement now. For the rest of the day, I just play Innocent Sin Online with Maya again and learn about a weirdo at Polonia Mall. Good thing I don't have exams coming up starting tomorrow or anything, so I can be safe in deciding to play this game all day. The 18th of May starts, and with it comes the midterm exams. I can't do anything until the last day of exams, the 23rd, so I'll explain how the exams work. Over the period of a few days, your entire day's schedule will be taken up by exams. The exams either have questions for you to answer manually or questions that will be answered based on your academic stat. My academics aren't perfect or anything, but they're good enough for now. Sunday, May 24th, I end up buying more junk off of Tanaka's show. Next day I find out that I was in the top 10 of my class on the midterm exam, as I expected through methods that definitely didn't involve a day-by-day guide of the game. On Tuesday, I got a reward from Mitsuru for placing in the top 10 of the exams, a set of items that increase any persona's stats permanently. I won't be using any of these items until the end of the game when I make the best persona in the game, since using them now would just be a total waste if I'm gonna get a new persona so often. I have to talk with Mitsuru again before sleeping because I need an item for that other request I accepted a couple weeks ago. I turned that request in and hit the hay, but as you may expect, another day comes and with it follows another social link. Today, however, I got to start a new one. I joined the fashion club and chatting with a transfer student who goes by Bebe, I start the Temperance Arcana social link with the Frenchman. Tomorrow I want to spend more time with Bebe, but I just so happen to not have a Temperance persona on me. Luckily for me, I can just buy one without care after discarding one of the personas I already have on me. Weirdly enough, buying a persona from the compendium gives you an achievement, so I got one called Persona Memory Bank. 7 down, 29 to go. Easy peasy. Before I end the next day, I need to give a totally random guy who I've definitely never seen before 20,000 yen, which he will definitely multiply through very real and very legal business. The last day of May is here, and it's kinda packed. Tonight is another Tartarus run. This time I've got to reach floor 40 of Tartarus, hit level 17 on the protagonist, do some requests, some of which involve teaching me how to inherit skills through fusion, grabbing about 130,000 yen, and getting a couple personas for social links later. This time we get a new party member to use in battle, Akihiko. If you ask someone who is the most powerful party member on their playthrough, don't be surprised if Akihiko is someone you hear come up pretty often. Offensively, his persona, Polydeuces, excels in electric attacks, but beyond that, it's also exceptional at support through debuffs and healing. Akihiko just gets better and better as the game goes, getting better and better skills over time, and this is the one time he won't be all that great, exclusively because of the lack of a strong weapon form or many enemies that are weak to electricity or need any form of debuff to be handled. Akihiko appreciation aside, I need to get my hands on the priestess persona, Apsaris, which I already got from my first Tartarus run back in April with how easy it is to get for most usual encounters, even in the first block. I also needed the fortune persona named Fortuna. I'll use this time to briefly explain how inheritance with persona fusion works. Basically, every persona has a value for each type of skill, other than passives, that determine how likely that persona is to inherit that type of skill. I'll use Jack Frost for an example since I need to fuse one with a Dia skill for a request. Jack Frost, as you may guess, has a very high likelihood of inheriting ice skills from the personas you use to fuse it. It also has a chance of inheriting light, dark, ailment, recovery, and supplementary skills, though each of these are about 8 times less likely to be inherited than any ice skill. If you want to go even lower, Jack could theoretically inherit Slash, Strike, Pierce, or even Almighty skills, but they are 5 times less likely to inherit than the last 4, and 40 times less likely than any ice skill. Jack Frost cannot inherit fire, electric, or wind skills whatsoever, an absolute 0% chance. If you're looking for a particular skill to be passed down to a persona, you can actually see what skills will be inherited before fusing it. If you want to reset the skills and try for a new set, you can deselect the personas and reselect them until you get your desired skill or skills to pass down. Since I wanted Jack Frost with Dia, I just need to get my hands on a Pixie and a Unicorn to fuse and become a Jack Frost that inherits the Dia skill from Pixie. This doesn't take long, and after a couple requests and extra cash in my pocket, May is done. Hey, so I also forgot to mention in the script that I got the Grasping at Greed achievement during this run. All I had to do is win against a gold shadow. It's not hard, I just forgot to mention it. Sorry about that. Anyway, it may be a different month, but the pattern is still the same. Social link leveling as much as possible every single day. Thursday the 4th has me spending more time with Chihiro for not only the 5th rank of the Justice Arcana, but also to enter a special relationship with her. For that, I get the achievement called That Special Someone. Friday is a little less important, but still has a unique factor to it. I need to head over to Paulownia Mall and play the crane game until I get 3 Jack Frost dolls. I probably sunk too much money into the machine, but I got them eventually. These will be useful for a request later on. Don't worry, I only support marketable plushies if it benefits me later, or if it's Jack Frost. On the 6th, Yukari and Junpei drag me along with them to find out more of some ghost story going around, possibly relating to a missing student named Fuka Yamagishi. We almost get tied up in a bit of a tussle, but the guy who visited Akihiko at the hospital appears and beats the annoying dudes up for us. One of the punks even says the guy's name, Shinjiro. Some more plot happens to reveal Fuka is, in fact, missing and how it's possible that she's dead and haunting people who bullied her. But, spoiler alert, she isn't dead. Shinjiro also hints more towards him and Akihiko having some history, but of course nothing is said outright. Back to business. On the 8th, there's another full moon, so it's time for the second full moon operation. This time we'll be saving Fuka from being stuck in Tartarus and we'll have to fight the Empress and Emperor. Good thing I'm over-prepped, so this boss fight was nothing to me. These two shadows have a gimmick to them where they change their resistances with a skill called Paradigm Shift, but the Empress never got to use the skill and the Emperor only used it once before I beat them. Easiest fight of my life and I got the achievement for it. A new Persona user. Cool, now time for bed and back to normal day-to-day activities. Starting Tuesday, the antique shop in Polonium Mall is open for me to use. This shop allows me to fuse certain items with personas to make weapons, but this is basically useless to me right now. Later on, this will be essential though, so I'll be back in a good few months. Wednesday the 10th involves some requests to be done, including the one that the Jack Frost dolls are needed for. Aside from that, it's just fetching some items or bringing Elizabeth outside for once. I also accept 3 requests that I'll finish when I get certain items from certain party members later on, like with Junpei and Mitsuru last month. The next day is special, because it's the day I get my first max level social stat. I haven't been mentioning social stats much since I introduced them because I don't want to inflate the script beyond what it needs to be, but just know I've been drinking a lot of concoctions from the school nurse and doing a lot of visits to the game parade in Polonium Mall in the evenings. Friday comes again, and today I nab a powerful drug from the school nurse for a request I'll do later. I sleep just to be woken up during the dark hour by the strange kid from the beginning of the game. He gives himself the name Pharos, and he begins the Death Arcana social link. I don't think you can avoid maxing this link, but I'm not going to try to find out. The next day, I get a call from Elizabeth and she says that Tartarus has a new section available to me, but this guide doesn't tell me to go there yet, so I simply do not care. What I do care about is an achievement I'm getting the next day. After buying the 5th set of items from Tanaka's Amazing Commodities, I get the achievement Granter of Your Desires. The items I got were 1 bottle of perfume and 3 emeralds. Generally useless for right now, but the achievement is rad. After succumbing to the wealthy, I headed Naganaki Shrine to use the Fortune Shrine. This allows me to choose a character to increase my social link points for, and I want to max out my link with Chihiro, the Justice Arcana, as fast as possible, so I pick her. Before sleeping on the 16th, I snag some amateur protein from my good friend Akihiko. Elizabeth probably just eats the whole tub, but as long as I get the reward for the request, I don't care what she does. Ah yes, another social link to start. June 17th schedule has me starting the Fortune Arcana social link with Keisuke Hiraga, aka Scott Wozniak, who also happens to be the lead student of the art club. 2 days later, I got to start yet another social link. I'm getting quite the tight schedule here. On Friday, June 19th, I started the Priestess Arcana social link with Fuka. You know, the new navigator I saved a while back. She's terrible at cooking and a possible romantic interest for the protagonist, and that's about it. In the evening of the next day, I get a glasses wipe from Shuji and deliver it to Elizabeth as part of her request. I also invested some money into the very mysterious man who I definitely haven't seen on TV. His financial decisions may not be the best, but at least Makoto's got a girlfriend to spend time with the day after he hands some dude 10,000 yen. Better than what a lot of people can say. The 22nd is an interesting day, introducing me to 3 mysterious individuals during the dark hour. Persona 3 has everything anyone can dream of. It's got sarcastic Jesus, some random nerd, and a quiet girl with a dress. They talk about how they carry out revenge for people upon a simple request or something about that, then Jesus shoots some dude without killing him, and they all peace out. Back to business as usual, as the event was for the player's eyes only. I'll see those fellas later a few times. Jesus will return, don't worry. Well, to the story of Persona 3 at least. The next afternoon of the evening brings some more plot development around Shinjiro, as well as the start of another social link, after that very mysterious businessman I've been giving money to reveals himself as president and executive producer Tanaka. Once the lack of shock factor wore off, I got my hands on the Devil Arcana social link's first rank. It took a week, but something else interesting happened on the 29th. I maxed out my charm social stat. This is especially important due to the effect it has on social links. The reason I need a matching persona for each social link is to get more points towards the next rank of the given arcana, and having the charm stat at its maximum also gives 51% more points, and this stacks with the persona bonus. This is pretty important if I want to max out all 22 social links in one playthrough. I think it's necessary, actually. Before ending the 29th, however, Yukari shows some suspicion for Mitsuru and asks Fuka to look into the events that went down 10 years ago. On the 30th, Pharos reminds me of the full moon coming in a week, and that's the end of June. July begins, and on the 2nd I can start a new social link. In the evenings, a monk can be found in Club Escapade in Polonium Mall. After convincing the bartender to give him some drinks, Mutatsu the monk will chat with me and I'll get the Tower Arcana. Sunday the 5th is a busy day, but only during the dark hour. It's time for another Tartarus run. This run of Tartarus isn't too complex, though it does introduce a new system and party member. On certain days, Elizabeth will call to inform me of someone wandering in the Tartarus. If I save that someone, I can go to the police station next time I'm able to accept rewards from the people I saved. As we all know, I only do things if they're convenient or benefit me directly, so I would be delighted to save some people from certain death. During this run, there are a total of 3 missing individuals, one on floor 45, 51, and 61. The highest floor I can reach, which I will reach this run, is floor 64. Aside from simple climbing, I also need to get Makoto to level 24 and fuse the necessary persona that I need during this visit. Specifically, I need to fuse the Moon Arcana's Gur, as well as the persona named Vatala with the skill Maragi. Getting a sum of 100,000 yen or so and finishing a few requests would also do me well here. During this visit, I also get an achievement. For rescuing a missing person lost in Tartarus, I get the achievement named Seize the Day. As for the new party member, Mitsuru gives the role of navigator to Fuka and her persona Lucia, and she steps in as a battle member. Her persona Penthesilea specializes in being very okay. More specifically, ice attacks, a bit of debuffing, and a small amount of healing. Penthesilea does have a pretty high magic stat though, I will give her that, but there's really nothing overly notable about her. Mitsuru herself uses a rapier, and for some reason it does slash and not pierce damage. About an hour and 50 minutes later, I finish my checklist for the Tartarus visit and head back to the dorm. The next day I make a pit stop to the police station and snag some rewards. A Recarm skill card, 40,000 yen, and a useless piece of armor that I don't need. At least I can sell that and any other items I don't need while I'm here. The 7th of July involves the 3rd full moon operation, taking us to a love hotel. This full moon operation is simple. On the 3rd floor of the hotel, I fight the Hierophant boss. This fight isn't anything noteworthy, I just avoid using electric skills because it can repel them. Rush it down with basic attacks and try for critical hits, and if I get one, I use an all-out attack. Just like I said, simple. This operation has a puzzle of sorts tied to it. After defeating the Hierophant, the doors lock, and after interacting with a large mirror that doesn't show anyone's reflections, the party kinda blacks out. After some unwanted romantic interest enforcement, even though Makoto is already in a relationship at this point, all of the party meet up again and the puzzle begins. Across the 2nd and 3rd floor, there are 2 specific mirrors that have to be destroyed, one on the 2nd floor and one on the 3rd. It's a simple puzzle, it's just a matter of realizing what you're looking for. Remember how the mirror that knocked everyone out didn't show anyone's reflection? All you've got to do is find what mirror on each floor doesn't have a reflection. If you try to destroy a normal mirror, you'll be separated again and you'll have to go up 1 floor to regroup and try again. Simple problem solving should kick in here though, and after destroying both mirrors I can fight another boss, Lovers. Unfortunately, the boss has no weaknesses. Just gonna fish for critical hits and spam all out attacks, but hey, this is what I get for maybe being over-prepared. Knocking out the 2nd and last boss of the fight, I get the Hotel Investigation Squad achievement. Unfortunately, Jesus and his 2 disciples were keeping tabs on the gang and are trying to find out if we're an enemy to them. I'll leave that problem for tomorrow's me though, or whatever day's me it becomes a problem for. On to the 8th. Oh boy, I have more requests to do for Elizabeth. This day also has me meeting a thin young man for the first time who will be the host of a social link later on. The 11th also comes with its fair share of plot development. Turns out the shadows we've been fighting against up until now were accidents that were released 10 years ago. Not only the outbreak of shadows, but Personas, Tartarus, and the Dark Hour as a whole were all created due to an accident that happened 10 years ago. In an effort led by Mitsuru's grandfather to harness the power of shadows for the sake of obtaining their power over space and time, an accident occurred that caused the collected shadows to grow in strength and numbers drastically. The incident also caused the Dark Hour to exist suddenly and for Gekkoukan High to become Tartarus doing it. The reason only a few people have personas isn't explained yet. Mitsuru just says the personas were created due to this event. Fortunately for us, though, there's a good side of this whole thing. If all the big boss shadows are destroyed, the strong ones named after Arcana, the Dark Hour and everything else from the incident could very well disappear and things could return to normal. Knowing there are 12 of these big shadows out there, we've already taken down half of them, so we just got 6 to go. And seems easy enough. The next day starts after that story dump with even more development for other party members. More information about the connection between Akihiko and Shinjiro is given with them meeting. Mitsuru asks Fuka to find as much as she can on the incident from 10 years ago. Junpei has some trouble feeling worth keeping around, and Yukari reminisces about her father. All around a great thing to follow up last night with. I'm seriously a fan. Unfortunately, I have to go back to talking with people and connecting with them personally. Gross. First off, I need to prepare to start the Thin Young Man's social link. I can't quite start it yet, however, so today's just gonna be a matter of talking with him. I didn't really bring it up before, but during my time in Tartarus, I got my hands on an old morsel. With this, I can start a social link with Nozomi Suemitsu, aka the Gourmet King. No preparation needed here, I just got the Moon Arcana at rank 1. The 14th through 18th are all exam days, so nothing to see here. Well, I guess the 18th actually does have something to see. We're introduced to a possible Seas candidate, but he happens to be a 10-year-old, a bit younger than the current members, Kinemata. Yet another Persona user with a dead parent or two. The 20th of July has the party go on a little vacation to Yakushima. During this vacation, there are some showings of the relationship between Mitsuru and her dad, Takeharu Kirijo, who is the only living person to have seen a part of the shadow experiments 10 years ago. The party also has a bit of well-deserved fun while on vacation. Thankfully, Takeharu is a bit more reasonable about sharing information on the incident, so he actually shows a video of Yukari's dad, Eiichiro Takeba, talking about his worries and regrets for the Shadow Project during his time working on it. The video also shows Eiichiro being caught up in the explosion at the site of the incident after expressing his concerns. Yukari finds that her dad had a large, essential role in the project and feels like he had betrayed her in some way by hiding this, feeling like she was wrong to believe in him. After some consoling, the next day arrives. A few embarrassing attempts to talk to women later, I'm introduced to what may or may not be a somewhat important character, Aegis. She's revealed to be the only surviving anti-shadow weapon, something made 10 years ago to combat uncontrollable shadows, and she seems to have a fixation on Makoto for some reason, saying it's her highest priority to be with him at all times. It's theorized to be a malfunction, but nothing in need of fixing right away. The last day of vacation happens, and we all hang out and have a good time, with Aegis included. Before returning to Iwatodai, Jesus and his friends are shown to be giving Shinjiro some pills and asking about the motives and goals of the members of Seas. Shinjiro isn't interested, but he does spill on the fact that we intend to destroy the Dark Hour. But back to the main party. Now that the gang's all back to the dorm, it's business as usual. The 24th allows me to see the exam results. Due to my insane intelligence both in and out of the game, and maybe a guide that tells me the answers, I got the best score in the exam. For that, I got the achievement called Head of the Class. 16 achievements down, just 20 to go. Aside from some useful items for much later on, I also get my first max rank social link, the Justice Arcana with Chihiro. Since this is the first max rank Arcana I have, I'll talk about the main benefit that comes with the final rank of each Arcana. The ability to create the highest level, or ultimate, persona of that Arcana. For Justice, it's Melchizedek, the Hand of Justice. Oh yeah, and every ultimate persona also has a cute little title to him. Some of these ultimate personas are less effective than other ultimate personas, but I can't even fuse any of them yet. The earliest ultimate persona I can fuse right now is the Magician's, and that's at level 52. I don't even have the Arcana maxed out yet either. Melchizedek requires me to be level 59. Right now I'm sitting at level 26, and you can probably see the problem there. Trust me though, a certain few of these ultimate personas will be very important later on. That night, Jesus and his followers are again shown to be with Shinjiro. They tell him that they're going to confront the members of Seas, and if Shinjiro is with them in any way, then he will be a target as well. The 29th has a bit of an event in the Dark Hour. Akihiko calls the other members of Seas to help him out because the little fella is hurt. Come to find out, the little fella is a dog at Naganaki Shrine, Koromaru. Somehow Koro appears to be a Persona user and defeated a shadow all on his own to defend the grave of his late master. Koro is brought to a vet, and that's it for what July can offer. So here's the big reveal. This video is the first thing that I've ever edited on my own, and just in a week or two's worth of off and on work. I'm honestly pretty proud of myself, and having absolute creative control has been very nice. Because of the length of the script and the time crunch I put myself on to both learn to and be confident enough to edit a video on my own, this video has to be put into 2 parts. The second part will be longer than this one, and it will cover the remaining portions of the game, as you may guess. Part 2 will be ready when it's ready, but for now, I want to thank you for watching. If you have any thoughts on the first video exclusively by me, myself, and I, let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe if you want, and I'll see you in part 2. In the meantime, I'll be listening to the Persona 3 Reload OST a lot. See ya.